Hey, welcome to episode 2 of Love Fashionably, encouraging you to love and live your best life fashionably. As I kind of mentioned last time, this whole theme comes from where I kind of think that it should be where you love God, you love yourself, and love others, and that should be fashionably, meaning it should be popular. It should be something that we just do regularly, and you can love fashion. You can love who Christ created you to be and wear that proudly. So thanks for joining us again. I also want to say another big thank you to BGTV Studios, which is a podcast network where you can check us out live on Facebook and on YouTube. YouTube, you can always look us up there and find. Yeah, thanks. I am getting more excited about the podcast every time. Again, like I mentioned, it's a little nerve-wracking. This is something like we talked about last time. It's definitely out of the box for me. So, but we're getting there, getting more comfortable and more excited about it. As I also mentioned last time, or I think I mentioned it, I currently live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Roll Tide. I graduated from Alabama. Gosh, it's been almost 14 years ago. I graduated with my undergraduate and master's degree. By trade, I am a speech language pathologist. If you don't know what that is, in short, it's a speech teacher. I didn't really know what it was until I got to college. You may or may not have had those around your school when you were growing up, but I help people talk. So it's funny when you find me fumbling over my words because I'm supposed to help people with that. But I actually started a few years ago. I became a virtual speech therapist. So this podcast is not something, it's not a new concept for me because this is kind of what my job is all day long. I am on a video screen and I'm talking and working with people actually all across the country. I live in Alabama, and this school year I've been able to work with students and people out in Arizona. I've previously been in Mississippi and Wisconsin, so it's been a lot of fun, and it's taken me a really long time to get to a place of peace in my job. I used to hate my job, and then slowly over time I just changed my mindset. It was just a mindset shift, and also I just had the opportunity. I never thought I would work in a school, and I've loved it. I love all the kids and getting to meet people all across the country. So it's taken me a long time to get to this place of peace in my life. And there's been a lot of transitional moments that have led me to where I'm at. And that's kind of what I want us to talk about a little bit are the different transitions and seasons that you kind of encounter. There's all different types of transitions that you experience throughout life. You're always transitioning, from high school to college, from college to career, from single to married, to being a parent, a grandparent. We transition jobs, we transition careers, money, status, fame with social media. Fame, you can get quick famous, and they can go away really quick. So there's a lot of transitions that come throughout our life and that we face. And those can even be sometimes a physical transition, such as a move. I am someone, I've moved around a lot throughout my life. Sometimes it's been within the same city. I've lived in different houses, especially in college. I think I changed almost every year, and I was there 6 years. So a lot of moving, and you would think that I really got this whole transition, moving thing. I should have everything down to like an art, and I don't. I hate it. I hate the process of moving or the process of a transition because it's hard, but it's also an exciting time because it's something new. It's bringing new expectations, new anticipation about things that could be happening. And so it can be fun, but it can also be very hard. And I've always found that even though through those transitions that the payoff is usually very well worth it. We talked a little bit last time about the process of exercising and how that's not always fun process. It can be very hard to start. So I think in a transition, it's usually either abrupt, as in it's not something that you wanted to happen. It kind of comes out of nowhere in a sense, or you initiate the transition and it's something that's hard and you have to do it and get in a routine with it, like with lifting weights or running or working out. You don't just go to the gym one time and magically you're fit. If that were the case, every gym would be closed in America. But it takes a process to get to where we want to be or to transition throughout different times in our life. And I keep saying process and Alabama, and I know there's two words you're thinking of, and yes, Nick Saban. I do love his definition of what he says. It is a part of his process that he would teach, and his definition of discipline. And I've always really liked it because it felt like it was so simple. It broke it down for me. And he says that discipline is there's two choices. There's something that you don't want to do, but you need to do it. And then there's something that you shouldn't do, but you want to do it. Can you make yourself do the thing that you don't want to do? And that's something that we can apply physically to our lives to get fit, to get motivated to do things. It's also something that we can apply to our spiritual life. Can you tell your flesh not to do something it wants to do so you can obey this is what the Holy Spirit is telling you to do? And when I think of transitions in the Bible, there is one major transition. Well, I guess all the transitions in the Bible that you could think of would probably be major, but one that I think of and kind of go to are the Israelites when they transition out of Egypt into the wilderness. And I was reading over that a little bit this week and just kind of thinking on it, and I don't know, I've always just thought of it as an exodus. There was one transition, they left. And then I was kind of thinking about the whole picture, but there was really two. There was two major transitions for the Israelites. They left out and they went in. They came out of they came out of Egypt and they went into the promised land. And then there was this huge gap of time. But I kind of want to read two different passages, one from Exodus where they are leaving and what they hear from God at that time. And then in Joshua, as they are ready to leave the wilderness. So we'll start in Exodus. The verses I have are chapter 13, 17 through 18, and then 21 through 22. And it says, when Pharaoh finally let the people go, God did not lead them along the main road that runs through the Philistine territory, even though that was the shortest route to the promised land. God said, if the people are faced with a battle, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness toward the Red Sea. Thus the Israelites left Egypt like an army ready for battle. The Lord went ahead of them. He guided them during the day with a pillar of cloud, and he provided light at night with a pillar of fire. This allowed them to travel by day or by night, and the Lord did not remove the pillar of cloud or a pillar of fire from its place in front of the people. There are several things in there that I really like. One of them we'll kind of talk about in a second, but I wanted to point out where he says that he led them along a route that was not the shortest route. So he knew that if he had taken them straight to where he wanted them to go, there was a battle ahead. And he says, they'll change their minds. They'll leave me. And another thing was that I never really caught it, but where he's talking about, I always knew, cloud by day, fire by night. But it was also like how he says, I think it's in Ephesians where he's talking about your word is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. He was leading them and already showing them that I'll show you the next step, but I'm not going to show you the whole thing. But that was their transition out. So God was telling them, we've got to go this way, but I'll be with you. And then in Joshua, chapter 1, verses 2 through 6, it says this: Moses, my servant, is dead. Therefore, the time has come for you to lead these people, the Israelites, across the Jordan River into the land I am giving them. I promise you what I promised Moses. Wherever you set foot, you will be on land I have given you, from the Negev wilderness in the south to the Lebanon mountains in the north, from the Euphrates River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west, including all the land of the Hittites. No one will be able to stand against you as long as you live, for I will be with you as I was with Moses. I will not fail you or abandon you. Be strong and courageous, for you are one who will lead these people to possess all the land I swore to give their ancestors I would give them. So 2 things that God promises about a transition is he promises he'll be there. He doesn't promise he's going to show you the whole picture. He never showed either one of these. He never showed Moses the full picture of the wilderness. He never showed Joshua. He gave them what they needed in the moment. And what we notice is those transitions is, in the first one, it even says, I'm taking you a long way. It was only supposed to be an 8-day journey from first transition to the second, and it ended up taking him 40 years. And I really think this is a representation in what God was kind of setting up for the rest of us, was that there's going to be transitions and different things that happen throughout life. And what we want to happen is we want it to be an 8-day journey, but God says it's taken 40 years. We want to transition from single to married, or unemployed to employed, or from living to paycheck to having all the money that we need very quickly. We want everything to happen fast because we live in such a fast-paced world and a fast-paced place, but that's not how it works. God was showing us that some things just take time. And he even says it. If they had faced the battle at that point, they wouldn't have been ready. Because something that we know about the Promised Land was that when Joshua went into the Promised Land, the first city they came to was Jericho. And what was waiting at Jericho was a battle. And, if they had gone straight from Egypt, where they were living in hard times, to Joshua, God even says it, they wouldn't have been ready. They would have left. They would have missed what God wanted to give them. He had a great promise for them, but it required participation on their part. And they would have missed out on so much, and that would have been really sad. And I think sometimes that's for us too. We like to think that we're not like the Israelites anymore. We're the Joshua generation, or, we're made for promise. But really, if we want to talk about it, we're probably more like the Israelites than we want to think, because it said that they were complaining, they were nagging, they were not happy in the waiting. And I don't know about you, but it can be hard to be patient in the waiting and not to nag and not to want to fight and quit and give up. But you just have to wait and be patient. And I love that. I don't know. It takes time. Joshua, he waited and was patient and received the full promise. And I think that that's just what we have to do. Again, because of our culture, we want to rush into things. We want to rush and we want to make things happen. And, maybe that's happened to you. Maybe you've felt like God didn't answer quick enough, so you rushed to make something happen. Or you got mad at God because he was taking too long, so you just quit and gave up. And we want to rush the hard things in life sometimes. But the hard is the process that gets you ready for the promise. And, there's always a shifting and a shaking or something that's coming. And the payoff is always worth it. You just have to endure. And one thing that I kind of think of when I think of these type concepts is another word is, and we've mentioned it, the discipline of it is to doing the things that you don't want to do. And when I hear the word discipline, a lot of the times, or I guess until this week when I was really thinking about it, discipline, when I hear that word, I always think of punishment. I don't know what you think of when you hear that word, but it's not like a fun word. There's some words that you just hear and you're like, oh, yay. For me, chocolate. Oh, yay. That's exciting. Yes, I'll take that. Discipline. I don't know about that. It's not as fun. But again, I think it comes down to our mindset. Living a life of discipline is not easy, but it's worth it. You've probably been seeing, as I have, as you're watching TV, keep showing all the commercials for the upcoming Olympics and that are coming on this summer, and the athletes that are going to be there, and you just see them, and the Olympics is like the highest level that they can go to as an athlete, and looking at those people, and they've really had to put in a lot of discipline to get to where they are. And it's not that they've really punished themselves in a way, but they have lived in a way to make themselves be the best person that they could be for a moment that they have coming. And whether they win or they lose, and they'll interview them, after every race, after swim meets or whatever, you always see them on TV and the interview person. And no matter if they've just won gold or they totally missed the stand, you never hear them be like, well, that was totally pointless. I really hated I put in all that time. This was just the worst thing ever. I'm never doing this again. I don't think I've heard one of them ever give that type of an interview. They're always so grateful that they even have the opportunity to be there, because what it took to get there, they respect it, and they respect the process and the discipline that it took to be in the position where they are, and they are at the highest level that they could ever be. And they're just excited. And I think, what if we take that mindset with us when we face hard things? If instead of being like, oh man, I have to do this again, instead of being like, well, maybe I'm just being the best person that I can be today, and just being grateful that we have the opportunity to do that. There's a few verses as we starting to head toward a close. I wanted to read that talk about a little bit about this discipline and things. So with the new perspective of discipline is not punishment in a say. It's just a way of living to be better. I think that we can all think of areas in our life where we want to be better. I mean, we're just into March, but I know there's all these New Year's resolutions that you may have already failed on, but there was lots of promises that you made to yourself at the beginning of the year that you were going to do, and there's still time. You can, it's the beginning of the month. You can start fresh and start new, and you can always, every day is a new day to make a fresh start and to try better and to be a better version of yourself. And in Hebrews chapter 12, and I have quite a few verses, so bear with me, but 1 through 12. So it says, therefore, we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. Let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not yet given your lives in your struggle against sin. And have you forgotten the encouraging words God spoke to you as his children? He said, "My children, don't make light of the Lord's discipline, and don't give up when he corrects you. For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one who accepts as his child." As you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Who has ever heard of a child who is never disciplined by his father? If God doesn't discipline you as he does all of his children, it means that you're illegitimate and are not really his children at all. Since we respected our earthly fathers who discipline us, shouldn't we even submit even more to the discipline of the Father of our spirits and live forever? For our earthly fathers disciplined us for only a few years, doing the best they knew how. But God's discipline is always good for us, so that we might share in his holiness. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It can be painful, but afterward there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. So take a new grip with your tired hands and strengthen your weak knees. Again, discipline, it can be painful, but it's not pure punishment. It's a way of correction to lead into a promise. It's a way to transition from an old way of thinking, an old mindset, and to move into the new. And, he's just, I find it encouraging here because, he's just saying it's time to give up, get back to what you know you're supposed to be doing. There may have been things that you've said you were going to quit and you were going to give up and you were going to be better, and then slowly routine comes back, and then you ease back into those old thought patterns or ways of life. And again, just remembering that every day is a new day and you can start and try again. I think that's something that we forget. We just get stuck in habits and we think that we just have to live that way forever. But, his mercies are new every morning, so why don't we try to live that way? That we get up and we try to make every day a different day and to try to transition into something new every day. And then that end where he's saying, take a new grip. So he's saying, I know it's probably been tiring for you. I know it's been hard. You haven't given your life like Jesus did for you. So really, what are you complaining about? So why don't you get up and get back to work? Take a new grip. I always think of that in the, reminds me, I think it's Elisha or Elijah. I can't remember who had the oxen that was working in the field, but I always just kind of picture that when it's like strengthen your hands, kind of that old mentality of like get back to work, get back to doing what you know that you're supposed to do, and strengthen your weak knees. Yes, you've probably been like on the floor in a puddle like, oh no, poor me, the poor me's, because we all did that from time to time. But get back up, and get to doing what you know that you have been called to do and what you were supposed to do. And so it's never easy, again, to walk through transitions, to walk with a disciplined life. But I think it's just a mindset. That's what it was for me, or is for me every day. It's just to choose to do something that you don't want to do. And it's not easy, and in the moment it's going to feel hard and challenging, but it will pay off. You will get to what you want to do and to be the person that you want to be. So just encouraging you. I hope that you'll keep going. If you have any prayer requests or anything, please feel free to drop them in the comments section. I want that to be a place where we can all talk together. So I hope that you have a great week. Again, we will be back here on the third Monday of the month. So every first and third Monday of the month, you can find me here at Love Fashionably. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook. And I love you guys. Thanks for being here. And I will see you next time. Love Fashion.